Hello everyone, I am Deadliest Lift, and today we are going to be reviewing the B52 Pro from Major Fitness, which is an all-in-one rack with Smith machine, cable station, and half rack. All right, first off, we're gonna look at the most fundamental part of the B52 Pro, which is the front-facing half rack. Now, the dimensions of the entire rack are right here. I am a very large individual at 6'5" and close to 300 pounds, and while I would say that the B52 Pro is on the compact side, it has not been too small for anything I've tried to do on it so far. There's a few things where it feels a bit cramped, but I am definitely in the 99th percentile. And what I think it has going for it is that it has a small footprint for your average basement. For instance, at 82.6 inches tall, it will fit in the standard American basement, which, while not a limiting factor in this environment, has been a limiting factor in my primary basement gym before. So I'm always glad to see things that are built to actually fit in my gym. Now, looking at the actual hardware, I was pleasantly surprised by how robust it was at this price point. The uprights are 14 gauge steel. They have 1-inch holes. The entire rack holds together very well. There's no shaking at the joints. There's no wobbling. It's very sturdy, especially when loaded. And I have no complaints. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be this good. The J-hooks are a sandwich design, which are far and away my favorite style of J-hooks. They have your typical heavy-duty plastic to protect your bar. They're rated 700 pounds. They have this locking pin, although honestly, it's in there pretty stable. I don't think you really need it if you don't want to use it. They've been rated for 700 pounds, although I've put in 800 pounds on them. And yeah, very solid, zero complaints. And I have the same opinion on the spotter arms. Solid steel, 1-inch hardware. Safety pin if you need it, although again, I don't think you necessarily need it. Probably slightly more important on these than on the J-hooks, but again, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere if you choose not to use it. I've had almost 1,000 pounds on the bar on these, and yeah, incredibly solid. And if you don't trust me, let me put my money where my mouth is. I'm so confident in these safety spotters that I'm willing to stand on here and jump as hard as I can. Now that brings me to probably my only complaint about the half rack portion of the B52. If you're shorter than me and do not need to access the highest points for your J-hooks, you'll never run into this issue. But if you are on the taller side like me, you probably will bump into it. If you put the trolley in highest position, you can easily access almost every position for the J-hooks. But if you do want that top point for, say, squats, overhead press, if you are taller like me, you need to put the trolley below the J-hook, and that means that your cable is a little bit in the way. Now, there's enough slack in the cable that you can easily tuck it behind the J-hook, either onto the locking pin or just onto this little flange here. It's not ideal, but it's very workable, and it's a small complaint given everything else. Here's a better view of where the cable gets in the way. Again, it doesn't overlap where the bar goes very much, but you don't really want that there, especially if you're going heavy and don't want the, concern of bumping into your cable when you're trying to re-rack, so you can just go like that. And like I said at the beginning, even with its compact size, the rack is tall enough for me to do any barbell compound that I can think of, including overhead press, without any issues. Then at the top of the rack, there are 2 sets of fixed pull-up handles. I think they're both actually at pretty comfortable angles. They're both closer to 45 than a true straight or a true neutral. And the widths are pretty comfortable for me. And I think they'd be pretty comfortable for people of both sizes. The rack also ships with these parallel dip handles, which to be honest are pretty tight for me. I imagine they're gonna be relatively tight for most people, but they are serviceable and I can use them if they're my only option. Now, the last thing I want to touch on before we move on to the Smith machine is compatibility. With a 3x2 1-inch hardware, this is not a standard rack configuration. So if you choose to go with the B52 Pro, you are probably gonna be locked into their ecosystem and only able to get their attachments. Now, Major Fitness has a fairly large variety of attachments, and they are releasing new ones pretty frequently. So there's a lot to choose from. But if you have dreams of expanding your rack and you want to play with all of the rack mounted toys that are out there now, and there are a lot of them, you might be better off looking for a rack that comes with a more standard sized upright, such as a 3x3 1-inch or a 3x3 5/8 inch. Now that brings us to the second component of the B52 Pro, which is the built-in Smith machine. When not in use, it can be stowed away up top so it's out of the way. It's easily adjusted up and down onto the hooks. Quick adjust safeties, which are good at their job. The bar itself is solid steel and just shy of 45 pounds when fully unloaded. I would personally describe the knurl as deceptively grippy. It does not seem like much until you get grabbed in which case it does start to scuff the skin a little bit. Now, as for how smooth the Smith machine is, I'm gonna let it speak for itself. I have a mic right there. These mics are sensitive enough that you can hear how perpetually congested I am, but while you can hear the bearings, they're not loud, they're not obnoxious, they're not racketing. The bar moves smoothly. I have used a silicone-based lubricant on the guideposts. I recommend doing that for basically all your Smith machines as well as your cables on about a yearly basis, depending on how often you use it. But other than that, that's stock smoothness. And again, this time with about 300 pounds. As you can see, still smooth, still quiet, still very effective. The Smith machine is rated up to 400 pounds, although I've had over 500 on it with no issues. So I'm not gonna suggest you go over the suggested weight limit, but if you choose to, I don't think you're gonna have issues. Now, space-wise, I have zero complaints. Even with my large frame, I haven't had any issues where I felt the Smith machine was too confined to do what I wanted to do. What I really appreciate is that there's a lot of space behind the Smith machine, which makes getting the bench into place for stuff like overhead press and bench pressing very easy. I've definitely had Smith machine all-in-one racks before that have, for instance, like a storage panel or a fixed back, which does not leave enough space to scoot the bench far enough back to really get in position for my torso. So gold star there. The bar is a bit short, but that's kind of a limitation of all Smith machines. But even then, with my poor wrist mobility, I can still get into place for stuff like hack squats. Now, I do have a couple complaints about the Smith machine as well. The first being the sleeves. They are fixed. They do not spin, either by virtue of having a bearing sleeve like a traditional barbell or having the sleeve mounted onto a different part of the trolley separate from the bar itself. Now, why that's an issue is when you go to unrack the Smith machine, you obviously have to turn the bar to release the hooks. Now, if you have a rotating sleeve, that's very easy. The bar shaft travels separately from the weight, so it's a very minimal wrist curl effort to do the unrack. When you have a fixed bar like this, you have to move the entire weight to get that spin. Now, at lighter weights, not an issue. As you start to load the bar up to that 300, 400, 500 pounds, you really start to notice the necessary movement to twist your wrists. Now, is it hard to overcome? Not the end of the world. Is it nice to be able to have next to no movement necessary in order to unrack the bar? Yes. Now, my second complaint is in the safeties. While I have intentionally dropped the loaded bar on them several times in order to stress them out and see how they perform, this bracket here, it's hard to see from this angle, but it has twisted a little bit and bent. So it's now gotten to the point where the end of this little thing is caught here, so it's not really bending anymore. But the fact that it bent after a few drops with not incredibly unreasonable weights or from incredibly unreasonable heights is a bit disconcerting. I don't think there'd be any issue if the bar was lowered, safely as you should when bailing to the safeties. I think it's mostly just the exponentially greater force of a bar in movement and all the extra momentum it carries. But given that this is a piece of safety hardware and how small it is, I think in the future they should buff up the gauge of this metal and potentially have a different kind of hook on here than this washer system. Yes, it works, but I don't think it'd be hard to make it a little bit better. The final minor issue I found is that the bar seems to be slightly out of level. For instance, right now, this side is fully locked into safeties. There's still a little bit of play on this side. The issue mostly levels out once the bar has a bit of weight on it, but I still want to point out every flaw that I can find. And to be completely fair to Major Fitness, I know that this entire garage is on a slight gradient for drainage purposes, so that could be contributing to the issue. That all said, I still think the Smith machine is perfectly serviceable and very much in line with the majority of other Smith machines I've ever used. I do think the Smith machine is probably the weakest of the three major parts of the rack, the half rack, the cable system, and the Smith machine, but that speaks more to how well I think the half rack and cable systems are made rather than any significant issues with the Smith machine. And that just leaves the cable system, which I think is the best part of the entire B52 Pro. The cable system is fully adjustable, 29 positions from top to bottom. There is aluminum pulleys throughout the entire machine, so it's durable and smooth. There is a selectorized weight stack with 170 pounds per side, and altogether it just works so much better than I honestly expected it to. The cables are smooth and quiet. Once again, I have a mic on the upright right next to the movement. There is nothing. The resistance is smooth, there's no noise. And also, once again, I have put a silicone-based lubricant on the guide rails, which I again highly recommend, as well as lubricating each individual pulley as you install them. The rack does come with a few attachments to get you started, including a straight bar, a lap bar, and some D handles, but I would highly recommend just going on Amazon and getting some generic cable attachments that are full of metal. They're like 50 bucks, and it's a fairly significant upgrade. The B52 Pro comes with two 170-pound 2-to-1 ratio cable stacks. While these are just fine for movements such as tricep extensions or cable flies, the 85-pound weight in hand per side starts to get kind of light when you look at movements such as low row or cable pull downs. Luckily, Major Fitness sells these plate extension add-ons, which let you add plates to your stack, and they completely solve the problem. While they're not standard, I would 100% recommend these to anyone getting this rack. These attachments allow you to add extra weight to your cable stack by using your standard Olympic plates. Now, what I like about these as opposed to a third-party option like a gym pin is that they load on both sides, and that even load reduces the issue you get of a one-side load beginning to pinch on the guide rails. This means you can add much more weight using these than you can with something like a gym pin. Now, the weight extenders claim that their load capacity is 300 additional pounds for a total of 470 pounds in the cable stack, or about 235 pounds in hand. Now, here I've loaded four 100-pound plates for a grand total of 570 pounds, or about 285 pounds per hand, and I'm going to show you that it still works. The rack also includes this convenient collapsible foot plate for when you want to do low rows. 570 total pounds, 285 pounds in hand, still silent, still smooth, still no issues. While Major Fitness does sell 2 packs of the cable extension add-ons, I think you really only need it on one of the 2 cable stacks. I can't think of many scenarios where you need that much extra weight in both hands at the same time. So save yourself some money, get it on one side. But if you're gonna get the rack, I highly recommend, if you're gonna get any of the add-ons, that you get this one. Now, looking at the size of the rack end, it is wide enough for me to comfortably do cable flies if I do desire. While I would prefer having extended arms or something like a free motion, this is sufficient. Now, the only issue you might run into if you're long like me is lat pull downs. If you like to sit on either a seat attachment or a bench and you want to get full extension, you're probably going to have issues. However, I always just sit on the floor anyways, and it's not a problem. However, if you don't want to sit on the floor, they do sell an extension that raises the connection point by about a foot, which should solve the problem. I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm actually really impressed with the cable system on the B52 Pro. I think it's smooth, I think it's effective, I think the weight extensions work really well, and overall I think it punches way above its weight class. If I'm being completely honest, there are certain parts of this cable station that I actually like more than the cable station on my more expensive multi-gym in my primary basement gym. I think anyone would benefit from having this in their gym, and even if you're not interested in the Smith machine, I think you should seriously take a look at the F22 Pro, which is the rack from Major Fitness that comes with just the cable stack and not the Smith machine. It's hard to find complaints with the cable system on the B52 Pro, but if I'm gonna pick anything, this trolley isn't the smoothest I've ever used. Like, it's not hard to move, but I've definitely had ones that move better, but that is honestly just looking for something to nitpick. Now, I do want to show you one new upgrade that I think is really cool. These flex arms just released, and they replace your standard cable trolley with these arms that have 2 points of adjustment, allowing you to adjust the height as well as the angle. Now, with those adjustments, you get a lot of cool options. First off, they give you much more width in your cables, more akin to a full functional trainer, which makes cable flies much better. This eliminates one of my only problems with the size of the stock cables. Second, at the highest position, they basically replace the lat pull-down extension attachments, allowing you to use the seat attachment or a bench for your lat pull-downs comfortably, even if you have a 7-foot wingspan like me. And finally, if you do choose to get the pull-down seat / leg extension attachment, it does go a little way towards making the leg extension functional. When connecting the default trolley to the leg extension, the angle of the cable is so flat that for really the entire second half of the motion, especially at the top, all the force is pulling inwards, not downwards, and you have next to no resistance. This results in a resistance profile that I would call basically a non-starter. When you attach it to the flex arm, however, you get a much steeper angle for that cable, and while you do still see some decline of the resistance curve as you complete the motion, there is still some resistance at the end and the second half, which means while it's not going to compare to a dedicated leg extension or a better machine, it will still get the job done, and honestly, sometimes it's all you need. That said, there are still enough problems with the leg extensions I wouldn't suggest getting it just for leg extensions. If you want it as a seat for your lat pull downs and you want the flex arms anyways, then it's a nice extra thing to play with and maybe you'll find it's good enough, but don't go dropping the money on the leg extension machine and the flex arms just to do leg extensions. I think you'd probably be a little bit disappointed. The flex arms also come with a spreader bar, which lets you connect both arms together for things like lat pull downs. Now, while I think overloading one stack with the plate extenders gives a better feel than this, if you choose not to get the plate extenders, this will allow you to access 170 pounds for your pull downs more easily. Overall, I think the flex arms are a solid addition to the rack, and if you're going to start upgrading it, I would definitely prioritize the weight plate extenders first, but these probably come second. They add a lot of utility, and they're just straight up much nicer than the default trolleys. Like, my one complaint about the default trolleys was that they didn't go up and down very well. These are much smoother. They massively tightened the tolerances. They made much better rollers on them. It's just a straight upgrade. They work better, they look nicer, they're heavier duty. There's really nothing to complain about. The last thing I want to touch on is storage. The rack has 4 eye hooks for holding your attachments. I'd like to see them sit a little bit lower because as it stands right now, that gap is pretty small and a lot of attachments can't actually hook over it. And there are 4 weight pegs sticking on the back. I'd like to see them go sideways because as they stand right now, you can't really move your rack back up against the wall, which seems like a weird space optimization option, especially considering how compact it is and how it's going to normally appeal to people with limited space, but those are pretty nitpicky things. Before I wrap up, I do want to make the disclosure that Major Fitness did pay me for the time it takes to film and edit this review, and they did provide the B52 Pro for making other content. They have no oversight over the content of this review. There's no talking points, there's no script, they have no approval power. So yes, there was compensation involved. No, there is no contractual obligation to give them a good review, nor did I give them a good review just because they paid me. All right, closing thoughts on the B52 Pro. Overall, very impressed with it. As I said, I think the cable system's excellent. I think the half rack is good. I think the Smith machine is okay, but when you add those all together, I think it's a strong contender in its market and a great value at its price point. Who should get the B52 Pro? I think the B52 Pro would be an excellent initial purchase for someone who wants to start a home gym. I think with it alone, and plus, plates and bar, you have everything you need to go a long, long ways. And if you want to expand past that, it can be, the foundation of your home gym. If you want to expand down, add dumbbells or specialty machines or specialty barbells, you can do that, and they're going to be a good addition to what you can already do here. If you want to just get this and stop, I think that's enough for 95% of people. Like, there are not many lifters out there whose goals cannot be attained with what you see here. If you still have questions I didn't cover in this review, please feel free to drop a comment, shoot a DM, get a hold of me however you want to. I love making sure people have what they need. I like answering these questions. I spent a good amount of time with this machine and, with lots of different machines. So happy to answer them. That said, I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope it was beneficial, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you all again.